Thank you, Rachel. And I'm delighted to be joined by science educator Bill Nye to discuss actions we can take to turn back the hands of the Doomsday Clock. So, Bill, you've pointed out that many apocalypse films start with characters ignoring the warnings of scientists.
Yes, yes.
And we've just heard scientists and experts raising alarm bells. So my question to you is real life following the plot of a disaster movie?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I remember very well Colossus, the Forbin Project. This is an older reference from the disco era. But the premise was that the Soviet computers, the computer that controlled Soviet weapons was connected to the United States' computer that controlled nuclear weapons. And wouldn't it be great if the two computers could agree on not blowing stuff up? And so things went wrong. Things went very wrong. And what everybody's afraid of, if I understand it, you are a physicist full-time. I'm an engineer. I still have a license, man, but I don't work in it full-time. But when you write a computer program in the good old days, by that I mean 3 years ago, what you'd put in, you had a pretty good idea of what was going to come out. But the trouble with artificial intelligence is we don't know what's going to come out. So what if these fire control systems, as they're called, interact in a way that's unpredictable and
Yeah, sometimes the surprises are good, but sometimes not so good.
Surprises are good. Okay.
So I know you share our concern about climate change, and as you travel the world giving talks and speaking with people, what is your sense of the level of awareness and kind of engagement with climate change? Is the tide finally turning?
Well, the tide is turning-ish. Everybody, don't take my word for it. A few years ago, the mainstream media, as it's referred to, New York Times, Washington Post, Baltimore Sun, whatever it might be, would have an article about climate change once a month or something. Now there's an article almost every day with a reference to climate change. Even in the Wall Street Journal, which is sort of two newspapers in one, the regular reporting has climate change every day, and the editorial page doesn't. And everybody running for president on the other side, on the conservative side right now, none of them are willing to mention climate change. And the one guy who did has dropped, they've all dropped out. So that's bad for the future. And people say to me, Bill Nye, science guy, what can I do about climate change? Vote. Vote. It all adds up. Vote. We can do this, people. We can do this.
And this is my next question. 2024, as what's been mentioned, is this unusual election year. Billions of people around the world voting. So how much does our future depend on the outcomes of these votes?
Well, it's the most important thing in the world. Is that a big deal? So I thought you were being ironic or something. So I used to say, I'm of a certain age, I used to say that the election of 2000 was the most important election of our lifetime, because no matter what else happened, if Al Gore, and people love to hate Al Gore, knock yourselves out, but if he had become president, we would have done something about climate change. But as it was, we didn't do anything about it. In fact, things just got worse and worse. Snowball, pun intended, effect, got doubled down on drill, baby, drill and all that. But with that in mind, let's keep that in mind and vote. If nothing else, take the environment into account when you vote. You can hate me, you can hate all of us people of my ancestry and upbringing. You can hate me, fine, knock yourselves out. But the world's climate is changing because of human activity, and the U.S. has to lead. Now look, I'm from the United States. American English is my first language. Okay, I got all that. My perspective is skewed or influenced or whatever. But the United States is the world's most influential culture. No matter what else you say about it, it is the world leader in culture. And so we want to export our values as well as whatever else we might sell. And along that line, we want to be the world leaders in renewable energy and fairness. What everybody's running around nowadays, all bent out of shape about diversity, equity, inclusion issues. That's all about being fair. We want it to be fair, inclusive, and we want to change the world. Back to you, Daniel.
And all of this impacts all of us, including those of us in the U.S., so we need to be engaged. And so kind of along those lines, we've heard, about all these threats to civilization, nuclear and bio, climate change.
The biological threat is the real deal, man.
Yeah, pandemics. I mean, there are lots of things to worry about. So my question is, how do we raise the alarm? How do we convey this kind of sense of urgency without making people despondent? And, and part of that is, how do you keep up your sense of optimism?
Doomism, so-called, right?
Yeah.
Where it's all so bad, there's nothing we can do, and so on.
Yeah.
You guys, you've got to be optimistic, or you're not going to get anything done. Here in the U.S., it's a big deal this time of year with these football teams going at it, U.S. football. Nobody who plays on either team thinks they're going to lose. Like, that's not how this works, man. By the time you get to that level, you believe that you can beat the other team. Not easily. You have tremendous respect for the other team. You're concerned about the other team, but you know in your heart that you're going to be able to prevail. You guys, we can do this. Come on, we can solve these problems. We can address these problems. And I strongly believe, as I mentioned a moment ago, it starts with voting. And if you're too young to vote out there, make sure that you grown-ups in your world vote. And just please take the environment into account. The environment includes climate change, human-induced, all this carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere, biological threats, and this accidental incorporation of all these crazy weapons, which just happened with people disagreeing for a few decades.
Yeah, so vote, talk to your friends, talk to your family.
The other thing we could do, Daniel, he started it, don't come running to me. The other thing we could do about climate change and biological threats and so on is talk about it. If we were talking about it the way we talk about all these other important issues, crime, football games, we would be doing something about it. And so when I look at the atomic scientist clock, that is a conversation piece, literally, right? This thing, this minute hand is set up to get people talking about these big issues.
Right. Yeah.
So thank you.
And the idea, 90 seconds to midnight, the idea is it's a conversation starter. Like, this is meant to prod people to
So it used
wrestle
to
with
be 10 minutes or something, right? With 17 minutes.
17 minutes at the end of the Cold War.
The end of the Cold War. The Cold War is still going on.
Yeah.
Everybody, okay, you hate me, you hate people of my background and ancestry. I got all that. You hate progressives. I got all that. But the thing in Ukraine is just the extended dance mix of World War II. I mean, it's still going on.
Yeah,
It's not something you can fool with, people.
Now with nuclear weapons.
Yes, now with nuclear weapons.
And
it's,
not only Russia, but China, we're headed into a three-way arms race. It's really...
It's a solvable
it's frightening.
problem. Nobody wants to shoot these things.
Yeah.
The idea was just to have them,
Yes.
so that nobody would shoot them. But now with artificial intelligence, as I understand it, you could be shooting by accident.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
All right, back to you.
Yeah. So, along these lines, so let's get back to climate. In some ways, the solution to climate is very straightforward. We just need to stop burning fossil fuels.
Whoa, what?
That's it. That's
You should have said something.
I know.
What are you going to do?
Okay,
Start
there's some
innovating
details.
with solar panels, wind, and distribution,
maybe
transmission
that
lines?
might help.
And I understand everybody has this idea, well, swords into plowshares. We'll take nuclear material and make it into nuclear power plants. Nominally an okay idea, but our problems are political. Nobody wants, NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Yeah.
Well, there's also banana. Are you down with banana?
I don't know that one.
Build absolutely nothing anywhere near anything. And so I understand this sounds like a panacea. We just take this material, repurpose it. But it takes 15, 20 years to get a license for these things. We don't, it's just much harder. The political problems are, in a sense, more difficult than the technical ones. And the security problems are the big problems. That's
Yes.
how we got there. So, better transmission lines, wind and solar, and not shut down the nuclear power plants that are working now.
Yeah.
But, and then, if you're asking me, you are a physicist full time. We're not going to talk about that one astronomical phenomenon.
No black holes.
But is it reasonable to you that we will have nuclear fusion in the next few decades?
Yeah, so I mean, it would be great. Nuclear fusion is harnessing the power of the sun. Wouldn't that be amazing? It's very technically challenging.
But so many people are working on it. They're closer than ever, right?
We're closer than ever, but we're still decades away, even in the most optimistic scenarios. So it's not going to save us. So we need to do everything else we can.
So you guys, there isn't a panacea. There isn't what everybody talks about, a silver bullet. But the longest journey begins with but a single step.
Yes.
Let us reduce fossil fuels as fast as we can. Let us advance our transportation system so they're not quite so inefficient. And let's, the big thing I keep talking about is transmission lines. If we had a way to move electricity around less inefficiently, we could really get something
We need
done.
to do
everything
we can,
all at once.
except for burn fossil fuels. That's the one thing we
thing.
need to stop, and we can't stop. I think that's, speaking of stopping, that's probably a good place to end. I want to thank science educator Bill Nye. To learn more about the Doomsday Clock and why it's at 90 seconds to midnight, and to follow these important issues all year long, please check out our website, thebulletin.org. Thank you for joining us. We are adjourned.